My name is Peter Bruninger, and I'm here with Dane Tilghman. Dane, how are you?
I'm good, Pete. How you doing, buddy?
Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, too.
Dane's one of the greatest living African-American artists. Well, I want to introduce the international audio community to Dane for several reasons. First of all, art and music go together, hand in hand. When I'm listening to my music system, I'm also looking at Dane's work, other artists' work. It's just part of my DNA to see something beautiful and colorful and kind of like a little bit of someone else's creativity along with the artist, be it Billie Holiday, Miles Davis, or ZZ Top. It's just part of what I enjoy. I noticed, Dane, it's interesting, a lot of audio buffs around the world notice their listening rooms have usually a piece of art right in between their loudspeakers.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
What I'd like to do is to get Dane's art in between those loudspeakers, because you are you're just superb. Well, we're going to go over and we're going to visit your studio. We're going to actually watch you at work. So I look forward to that a little bit later on here in the video. When did you start painting? How old were you?
Oh man, I was in terms of drawing, I was probably about 4 or 5 years old when I started drawing.
Yeah.
You know, when we went to school together, I used to hang around other kids who could draw anything better than me. I was like a little mercenary. You know, I wanted to learn as much as I could about what they were doing, and I just continued that process through junior high, high school. I went to Kutztown University for design, and really that's where I started to grow with my skills and whatnot. But it was really after college, right after college, I could concentrate on the thing that I love to do, which was painting and drawing. That's where the mastery started to come forth.
Well, as you'll see in just a little bit, the scope of your work, it encompasses music, blues. You're a baseball buff too.
Well, I love baseball because I was a lousy baseball player. 3 years in Little League and never got a hit. So
okay. It's kind of like my recent fishing trip. We won't talk about that.
But you know, I always loved the skill and the giftings of other people. So I feel my job as an artist is to celebrate the gifts that are in them. Whether it be music, whether it be sports, whether it be writing, you know, or just everyday life.
Now your paintings are hanging in some very prominent places. Give me just a couple of hit lists of where...
well, Baseball Hall of Fame is one of them. Certainly a number of galleries I'm in. Other places like that in some, you know, celebrities' homes.
Well, let's move on to Dane's studio. Let's see the master at work. Dane, you work with primarily a palette knife, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I would say the majority of work I do is with palette knife. I like texture, and that's the main thing. That's one of the reasons I jumped over to acrylics. I was a watercolors for a long time, but that's a flat medium. With acrylics, you have the opportunity to create texture and create more of an abstract feeling and bring a three-dimensional feel to
as we
pieces.
have here behind us.
Yep.
That's Dr. John. This is a very interesting piece of work here. These folks are praying in church, and I understand that you went to the Smithsonian and you got several historic pictures.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of photographs out there online. Library of Congress has over 16 million photographs, and I have my own library card, so I can go to the Library of Congress. It's just living in paradise as far as I'm concerned, looking at photographs of, you know, the South, of people, of, you know, old baseball players, of, you know, anything nostalgic.
Well, let's go watch you do your thing. And then we'll come back in several days here, and we'll sit down in the same spots. We'll keep these spots, and we'll show this piece of work that you will have finished by then.
Okay.
Let's go. Here we go.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's join Dane at his studio. Dane, thank you for inviting us into your studio. We're working on a painting I see here, and it's. I want to show what it's like to be with one of the world's leading artists while he's working.
Yeah, Pete, I'm working on this piece. I started this piece approximately a week and a half ago. It's a civil rights piece.
Okay.
And also you can see this image up here. It says
Yeah,
vote.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to do down here is on these are actually like picket signs, and we're going to put the word "I am a man" on each one of these signs in different colors and whatnot, because that's part of a protest march that happened in I think it was Memphis. Actually, in the 1960s, the same time Martin Luther King came to Memphis, for the trash collectors march. And so we're going to put that in here, and that's just part of the protest. You got the flags working through here. You can see I made this part of the flag, instead of blue, it's green, which kind of symbolizes some of the African influence on this thing. I think I'm going to paint these stars probably yellow or something like that, and then we'll have stars over here and all that as part of the American flag. I paint from old black and white photography as my reference material, and believe it or not, this came from about 4 or 5 different black and white photographs, and I'm just putting it together. In a couple of days you'll see this finished work, and hopefully you'll like it.
Well, let's watch some more brush strokes, and
Yeah.
and we're going to come over, and you have an exhibit over at a facility not too far from this. We'll take a road trip over there, and we'll show some of your finished work. Again, it's such a privilege to be here in your studio, watching you and capturing this.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, man.
Yep. Oh, good. Well, we'll move over, and viewers, and let's go take a look at some of Dane's finished work, and move on with the next chapter of the story of one of the world's greatest living artists today.
Sir, yes, sir.
You have a beautiful painting here.
Thank you.
This is called Black History.
Yeah, I did it in 2005. Actually, this piece was for Temple University. I had a friend who worked in the president's office, and she was buying work for the university. And she had commissioned me to do this particular piece, and then her funding got cut, so I still have this particular painting. It's looking for a home. Yeah, this piece is called The Neighbors. And it's, remember the piece that I was doing in my studio? This piece is around that same size. I love painting big pieces and small pieces. But this one, again, is a combination of probably 5 or 6 different black and white photographs that I start out with as the foundation, with all of my paintings. Done in sort of like the Cubist and my elongated style I call tall tale art. So it's a combination of things. And then, you can see the other paintings that we have around the room, more of the realistic style that I also like to work in. Might even call some of it Impressionism too. If you look at some of these other pieces, we got some pieces from down south. You have some pieces from Brooklyn, like this one here in the middle called Alone in Brooklyn. One of my favorite pieces.
I love that too.
Yeah, you see the Impressionism influence, like an artist named Hugh Lee Smith, which was an artist from the Harlem Renaissance. It kind of reminds me of some of his work. Then you have In the Word over here, which is more of a Cubist piece. Sometimes I like to simplify the form, and that's what you have in this particular piece there. And then, what's over here? Well, this one here is called Sunday. It's a piece down south. How folks on Sundays back in the old days, they dressed up, they went to church. That was the only day they had off. They were farmers, and so they were going into town to go to church. Then you have on the other side here, Pool Hall. That's a piece from Memphis, Tennessee, probably in the 30s. Now you see those rough and tumble characters there. Those are the kind of guys who spent most of their time in that pool hall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They lived, and they were probably pretty good pool sharks. They were really good sharks. No doubt about it. Then you got piano player here, and then you have my series of women.
I like these.
Yeah, I love painting the old, pieces. These two ladies here is called Sunday Gossip. Sunday Gossip #1 and #2. And that takes me back to my church experiences and whatnot. So,
Well, viewers, these works of art are unique. The colors are just popping out at me. The expression that you're able to capture in the ladies' faces, it's,
oh yeah,
Dane,
yeah.
it's priceless. You're definitely a national treasure. You like to paint musical themes too.
Yeah.
I understand that you enjoy the blues.
Love the blues.
And
Yeah.
I understand that you play in a blues band. But why don't you show us a couple musical theme paintings and a little bit about them?
Well, what we got here is we got this one here, which is called Patchwork Blues. This is actually Sleepy John Estes. And then we have this one, which is called Harp Man, which is Sonny Terry. My version of Sonny Terry. Sonny Terry happened to be blind. And he didn't have this fro back then. But it's my version. I'm working in acrylic. Now, I've done as many blues paintings as I've done any other kind of painting out there. In those 6,000 originals, I spend a lot of time going to blues festivals, studying the history of the blues. Quite fascinating. The story of the blues runs the gamut, and the personalities in the blues also run the gamut. You know, so I love, again, just as much as I like my baseball, I love my blues.
Well, viewers, as we all know, the blues is the cornerstone of rock and roll.
Absolutely.
It's where rock and roll was born.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the blues is the mother of rock and roll, if you will.
Now, you've told me that you like to paint sports players,
Yeah.
in particular baseball players. What do you have here?
What we got here is we got a couple of old school images. This one here represents the Negro Leagues, which probably started in the late 1800s and went all the way up into the, probably I would say, the early 60s. The Negro League team still existed. And this is one of the old Major League guys, Ted Williams here. Yeah, I love history. And I love baseball. I love the story of baseball. I've actually had a chance to meet a number of these old guys here from the Negro Leagues. Didn't get a chance to meet Ted Williams, but I've had a chance to meet a number of these guys here. Some of them were as old as 100 years old when I met them. Double Duty Radcliffe in particular, he was one of the old guys, you know. And the stories that these guys were tell were just absolutely fascinating. And, you know, so I'm painting the story. I'm also honoring their existence and the mark that they left, which is very important. I think that's part of my calling, is to tell the story of the everyday man and their existence, and just to let the world know that they made a difference. Even maybe their life was just about survival, about raising their families, but they made a difference.
Well, here we are, the finished painting.
Yeah.
This is turned out just beautiful. You explained us you're painting it the theme, which is get out and
Vote.
We only have 50% of Americans who vote.
Isn't that something?
Isn't that something?
Well, I don't think we understand the power of voting.
I don't think so. We're all complaining about it now, but boy,
Right.
you got to get out there and vote, folks.
Yeah.
And this painting is to remind you,
Get out and vote.
get out and vote. Well, I want to just thank you, Dane, for being such a wonderful person to
you're
give
welcome.
back your life through the medium of beautiful art.
Well, thank you, Peter, for being such a good buddy and helping me to expose my work to the world.
Yeah, that's what we're here to do. So please, share this video with everyone you know. Look up Dane, reach out to him. He'll paint any scene you need. He has a vast inventory of beautiful work to
Yes.
select from. Again, it's a pleasure to introduce Dane Tilghman to the world of audio.
Thank you.
Thank you.